2000 MTV Video Music Awards, live on stage from Radio City Music Hall in New York.
Ready?
I think I may be the only person doing this, but I'm going to debunk the allegations made by a 13-year-old girl, a Jane Doe, against JayZ in a lawsuit filed by Tony Busby's law firm in the Southern District of New York City. And the reason I say that, it was very easy for me to look up some of the details that were being alleged and find out they didn't add up. And this is not to defend JayZ. I didn't even want to make a video about it. But the pile-on to bring him down has been so insane. I thought, let me just look up some of the information to corroborate what is being said. And I've seen a couple of people come out and say, are you sure this is true? But no one's even fact-checked. And I get it, because no one wants to discredit victims, especially one of such a young age. But on my channel, we do research. And if someone is lying about being a victim, they are discrediting real victims and doing them a huge disservice when the justice system is bad enough as it is. So I started by bringing up the lawsuit filings, which is publicly available as a document, and I'm going to break down as much of the red flags as I can. So the introduction reads, defendant Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, and aka Love, along with his longtime friend and collaborator Sean Carter, aka JayZ, drugged and R-worded a 13-year-old girl at an after-party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. Another celebrity stood by and watched as Combs and Carter took turns assaulting the minor. Many others were present at the after-party, but did nothing to stop the assault. So the MTV 2000 Awards, you can still find a lot of footage of it on YouTube. It might not be the best quality, but you can see a lot of detail, and you can also look up the after party and see some of the images from there, although not many. And that's how I was able to compare what's alleged in the lawsuit to visual evidence. So I've skipped past the first bit, which gives a detailed recap of all the crimes P. Diddy is accused of, which we've seen plenty of evidence to corroborate, and also establishing that they had a working close relationship. So let's start with point 24. In 2000, near the height of their fame, power and influence, Combs and Carter attended the 2000 Video Awards in New York City. Well, we see evidence of P. Diddy arriving with J-Lo. As for him being at the height of his fame, he wasn't even granted a red carpet interview. She did her interview solo, and he has to walk behind her.
For the second time tonight, that is Papa Roach. And we're here, you know, they say all the big stars arrive last, right before the show starts, and we're here with one of the biggest. Jennifer, how you doing?
I'm good.
And the big stars of that night were Eminem, Janet Jackson, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, NSYNC, and Lil' Kim was a big star then, maybe more recognisable than Destiny's Child, who came on very early in the lineup, and they were being teased for having a new singer in the group. And JayZ didn't even get a look in on the red carpet. His song Big Pimpin' was not even played, which was nominated for Best Rap Video, but lost to Dr. Dre featuring Eminem. So this is way before he became an A-lister. And another big star that was there that night was Whitney Houston. So some very recognisable faces. This all lines up with point 38. On or around September 7th, 2000, plaintiff, then 13 years old, had a friend drive and drop her off near Radio City's music hall in New York City. You can definitely see how young some of the people in the crowd are. But would you go on your own? And which friend was it that drove you? Point 39. Plaintiff arrived at the venue and saw large crowds gathering as artists and entertainers began arriving. Plaintiff was very excited. So you can clearly see from the footage the event starts in the daytime and then it gets darker as nighttime falls, but she doesn't specify a timeline. And here we get to a big discrepancy. Point 40. As the event began, much of the crowd moved inside, but plaintiff without a ticket remained outside with others and watched the VMAs on a jumbotron. Well, see, there's no evidence of this jumbotron. It's filmed from so many different angles, and that bit of the story just doesn't seem right. You can see the crowds, you can see the stars arriving, you can see the limos, but no Jumbotron. So that to me is a big red flag. You can see there's kind of a balcony area where the hosts are watching a screen monitor, but there's no way she could have seen that. Determined to get into the VMAs or an after party, she approached several limousine drivers parked nearby and attempted to talk her way into either. It's just odd, because wouldn't you go up to the door? How is a driver going to get you into a venue? These are just questions no one is asking. One of the limousine drivers she spoke to claimed to work for defendant Coombs. So we have another witness, and there's no description of the car or the driver. The driver told her that Coombs liked younger girls and said she was fit what Diddy was looking for. And while not allowing her into the awards, the driver invited her to an after party. So how would a driver be able to get you into an award show like MTV? And if you've ever met a celebrity driver, they tend to be very discreet and loyal and guarded because they don't want to lose their job. But I'm sure this person could be identified. But anyway, this is where the story really starts to run into big trouble, because there were 2 after parties that night, if her version is correct. Point 42, the driver stated that he had to drive Coombs and others to the after party first, but instructed plaintiff to return to his location after the event, and that he pick her up and take her to the after party. Well, that just sounds unbelievable. Why is a driver going to leave his boss's location to go and pick up a random girl who might not even be there? But it just gets worse. We're at point 43. Later that evening, plaintiff excitedly returned to the same location and waited for what seemed to her a long time. The driver eventually returned and drove her what he described as the after party. Point 44. After approximately 20 minutes, so what time of day are we at now? Plaintiff arrived at what she believed to be a large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway. So she's telling us it was a large residence with a U-shaped driveway, and it was gated, and it was 20 minutes away. But if you do a Google search, you get what looks like a very different location. Because according to Getty Images, which is a paparazzi photo licensing agency, the party was at a venue called Serena, and it was sponsored by Virgin Records. And it was attended by, amongst others, Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston. MTV Video Music Awards after party at Serena, New York, September 7th, 2000. The party, hosted by Virgin Records, followed the ceremony held earlier that evening at Radio City Music Hall. And here's another photo of a rapper called Guru outside, and sadly he's no longer with us. So no sign of a large white building or a U-shaped drive. Now this may be a coincidence, but his LA mansion that he moved 2 years later did have a U-shaped drive. And here's some other stock photos which look to be from the same party. There's no written information, but it just looks like the same setting. And Puff just looks so angry at JLo the whole night. And there are some other photos from inside the party. I don't know if it's the same party, but they've got the same outfits on. From another agency called Coleman Rayner. They have a little copyright sign, which seems to be no longer in business, although they do have a website and what looks to be them in a row, but we don't know, we weren't there. Although you can see in that photo a lot of people were turned towards them. But let's get back to the allegations. Point 45 states, once inside, 2 men asked plaintiff to sign a document, which plaintiff did not read, but which she now believes to have been a non-disclosure agreement. She was told that she could not discuss what happened at the party. She gave the men her name and signed the form, but did not receive a copy. So the photos we've seen online of the after party, there does not appear to be anyone of 13 years old in those photos. And if it was at a licensed venue, they would have had a strict age policy. And I know that in the US, they're very strict about you showing your ID to enter a venue. But the likelihood of her having to sign an NDA to enter a party like that, an after party for an event, is 0 to none. You really think they're going to make every single person that attended a party, maybe hundreds of people, to sign a legal document and wait and take up all of that time? That's first of all. And second of all, I've been to many celebrity parties and never, ever, ever have I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to enter a party. This is a photo I took with my phone inside a quote-unquote after party with celebrities of Cassie, and P. Diddy is sat right next to her. You can see his arm in the photo. He did not try to stop me taking a picture. They were both happy for me to take pictures on that occasion. I do remember sometimes you would see signs posted to the wall saying, if you're at this party, this means you agree to be filmed or photographed, and that was kind of an unofficial licensing agreement for whoever was sponsoring the event to use your image publicly. So I don't think this Jane Doe was at the same party that we see in the pictures. The other thing about NDAs is I do not really remember them being used much when you worked with celebrities until much later in the 2000s. And that was more when the internet and social media became more popular, because in 2000 we did not have social media. So what happened at the party stayed at the party, and we had magazines and radio. And the artist's public image was very controlled by the record company, so there was no need for an NDA unless you were in a work environment. You could argue some of these parties were, but I do not believe she signed an NDA to enter a party. No way. And I'm pretty sure JayZ could find someone if he needed to confirm it. On to point 46. Inside the building, plaintiff recognised many celebrities as she entered what appeared to be a large living room or foyer containing a large crowd. Plaintiff attempted to mingle in the crowd and talk to several of the celebrities that she recognised and whom she had wanted to see at the VMAs. See, this is too vague. You couldn't name one person. And the photos of Bobby and Whitney, that is a different venue. And in the photos with JayZ, I do not see any other recognisable celebrities in that room. But it could be another party we don't know about with the big White House and the U-shaped drive. Point 47, waitstaff circulated through the room carrying trays of drinks and loud music played throughout the venue. Point 48, plaintiff observed widespread use, including marijuana and cocaine. I don't even know why that has to be in the lawsuit, because at 13 you shouldn't have been there. Point 49, after attempting to talk to numerous celebrities that shall remain nameless, plaintiff accepted a drink from one of the waitresses circulating the crowd. The drink was a reddish-yellow mixture that tasted like orange juice, cranberry juice, and something bitter. Point 50, after drinking just a portion of that drink, plaintiff began to feel woozy and lightheaded, making her need to lie down. So you're 13 years old, you've been out all day and night, we don't know what time it is now, and you're in a room full of people smoking Mary Jane and sniffing their lives away. You're feeling a bit woozy. I mean, I'm not trying to be shaming, but that would be very understandable. And to go back to these images of the party that JayZ was at, I don't see any waitresses. Do you? No waitresses, no underage people, and no recognisable celebrities. But in an indictment hearing this year, we have heard P. Diddy likes to use GHB to intoxicate people. So let's have a photo of that. We then have a graphic description of how the assault took place. And I'm not going to argue with that. But I will say, if you had been given GHB, I think you would have been knocked out for a lot longer than what it seems like here. Point 58, when Coombs backed away in surprise. Despite being drugged with GHB, plaintiff grabbed her clothes and shoes and ran out of the bedroom, holding her dress in front of her like a towel. She ran around the residence until she found the front door and was able to leave the party. Although there were other guests still at the party, no one appeared to take notice of plaintiff's distress or attempted to help her. 59. Once outside, plaintiff put her clothes back on and left the scene in the dark. So we're still in the night? Point 60. Plaintiff attempted to retrace the route taken by the limo driver. See, again, if you're that heavily drugged, would you be able to think that clearly? She kept running until she reached a gas station she noticed on the way to the party. Which gas station? A female clerk noticed her distress and allowed her to use the phone. Plaintiff called her father, admitted that she had lied about her whereabouts and asked him to pick her up. Plaintiff's father arrived to pick her up, etc., etc. And there were no records made of her seeking any medical help for her injuries or the fact that she thought she'd been drugged, all of which could be excused, but it's just a lot when the visual records just do not add up with anything in the rest of the story. So why is this random, verified investor political commentator Colin Rugg so informed on this story that he responded to another account, Gunther Eagleman? Tell me you're a troll without telling me you're a troll. I've been here before with these people who have access to legal documents and photos from people's pasts. Trust me. And this is X, formerly known as Twitter, which P. Diddy allegedly has shares in. But let's not let that get in the way of a good story, right? I mean, JayZ's going down. He's involved in Satanism, don't you know? Since I started making the video, NBC News has an interview with the victim and they contacted her father.
In an interview with NBC News, her father said he could not verify the claims. Quote, "I felt like I would remember that, and I don't. I have a lot going on, but I mean, that's something that would definitely stick in my mind," he said.
So let's talk about Tony Busby for a minute. I already featured him briefly in a video I made about P. Diddy scammers. There are so many lawsuits being filed against P. Diddy, and most people now see him for what he is. Someone who has inflicted pain and suffering on nearly everyone in his life. And a lot of people didn't say anything because they lived in fear of his intimidation, but some did. He had settled with people like the chef, I forget her name, and Jonathan Odie, who he gave a sexual disease to. His bodyguard, Gene Deal, has spoken about him being responsible for Biggie Smalls' death for years. The list of people he has victimized is endless, it would seem. And I'm here for all of these people getting some kind of justice. But Tony Busby, there's just something that doesn't sit with me about him. Is it because he wears so much makeup and shows off his extravagant lifestyle as if he's a big rapper? Because we know it's all fake. The cars are on lease and the houses are on credit. He just doesn't give me justice fighting vibes. It's more self-interest. And I know he's trying hard to get into a politically powerful position. He's heavily involved in politics. He's spent over $10 million of his own money to try and become mayor. And that's a lot of cases to defend to make that back. He's very familiar with how the false allegation game works. To quote one of his opponents, he only cares about himself and his press clippings. Do I think he's a scammer? Well, there's something very fishy about him, not least that he calls himself a shark.
And we're the biggest and we're the baddest and we're just floating around looking for something to eat.
Isn't that what a predator does?
Collects exotic cars and expensive art.
Look how beautiful that is.
It's gorgeous.
This one's like $3 million.
A lifestyle paid for by his tenacity in the courtroom.
I'm calling cap on that, hun. Sorry, it's 2024, not 2004. And he's got his own weird cases going on in the background. So, of course, I want him to get justice for anyone that has been abused. But this P. Diddy indictment has caused a kind of mass hysteria. The allegations made in that Tony Busby lawsuit looks like a hodgepodge of allegations made over the internet, mainly on YouTube. There are the fake victims and there are the channels that support them when there is evidence of their own predatory behaviour. I'm talking about Piers Morgan, Who Lies, Jaguar Wright, Who Lies, Popcorn Planet, Who Lies, Sean Atwood and anyone who's been on his channel. With this JayZ situation, the list has gotten out of control. And we're talking about child abuse. So is it to try and make all victims seem like liars, or are they just chasing the fame and money themselves? Like I said, since I started making the video, NBC News has come out and interviewed the victim and tried to find her witnesses. And JayZ has made a statement of full denial. Why did no one fact check this at the start?
He asked the woman about the contradictions in a phone interview on Friday. She said that she stands by her statements. "I have made some mistakes," she said. "Honestly, what is the clearest is what happened to me." The inconsistencies in her account of an incident alleged to have happened 24 years ago does not necessarily mean the allegations are false. The accuser's attorney, Tony Busby, said, "Because we have interrogated her intensely, she has even agreed to submit to a polygraph. This has been extremely distressing for her, to the point she has experienced seizures and had to seek medical treatment due to the stress."